Hi everybody, time for our third photo lesson in coding and creating. Today you're going to take self-portraits and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to apply what we've learned in our first two lessons with the neutral backgrounds and the angles and all those things to take some great self-portraits, and also we're going to take some action shots. So let's dig right into it and sort of look at some examples of some self-portraits. So here's a famous painting painted in 1660 by an artist named Vermeer. And I just want to use this to show you some things that you might look for as you take a photograph of yourself. This is in the 1600s, so obviously there was no electric lights. So we're seeing light from maybe a window. It's gentle light, the shadows aren't too harsh. And I want you to notice something. See the little highlights in the eye and on the lip and on the earring? All of those are really add to the image and make it sparkle. So as you're taking photos of yourself and looking in a front-facing camera, look for those little highlights and it will make your images that special. Notice that the background that Vermeer painted in this painting is a neutral background, so it's not distracting and it helps focus the viewer's attention on the subject. Let's take a look at some photographs that students took. So here's an example of using the grass as a neutral background. And again, notice the little highlight in the eyes. It really captures the emotion. Also, Catherine here chose just to switch to a black and white filter on her image as well. Here's a great example of using different angles. Kai's up here holding it above his head. He got a nice highlight in the eye again, so that really sort of makes it come alive. This is a great example of maybe using some props. If you want to use some sunglasses or something like that, it can make your photos a little interesting. There's pattern in the brick behind Neo, so it's kind of makes it a neutral background, but also having some texture and some cool effects. Again, the neutral background, something like a canopy of leaves in the tree, give a really nice effect. Notice the highlight in the eyes. That helps. Lots of, we talked about lines when we went on our photo walk. You see lots of different diagonal lines going through this photograph from the branches or her hair. You see lots of things like that. This is a really cool photo. Maria chose a nice filter to make it have that sort of vintage look. The angle is really interesting. Also notice the lines in the brick. With that lower angle, it almost gives the illusion that the bricks are coming together and converging together in sort of a V-shaped pattern if you look at that corner of the brick wall. And again, focusing the attention of the viewer on the subject of the photo. Here's another great example of those converging lines with the brick, sort of drawing the attention of the viewer on the subject. And again, a really cool vintage sort of filter to give it that sort of classic, almost looks like an album cover. Really cool. Here's an example of that sort of the sunlight coming in from an angle behind. Really cool starburst sort of effect. Just look for those things as you're taking your pictures. Different angles, remember those. A nice neutral background. Again, here's maybe the mulch of the tree and the tree, but it's not, it's being used as a neutral background and a nice highlight in the eyes. A background that's not distracting. Nice, beautiful highlights in the eyes to give that picture that sparkle. Another example of using the lawn as your neutral background. Now this is fun. This is an action shot, and I'll show you how Xian got this really cool action shot. The lower angle really makes it look like you are flying when you try to do a shot like this. If you have some friends, you can try to do an action shot. You can do some fun sort of action poses like this. The nice blue sky is a neutral background that's really fun. You can apply different filters. Here's ones with black and white. Some of these look like they could be a Nike ad or something. They're so cool. Also think about lighting. So it doesn't always have to be lit from the front. Sometimes it can be lit from behind and give some really cool dramatic effects. Here Claire's like using the sun and looking like she's holding it. That's a fun little trick to play. If you can capture emotion, that really makes an interesting self-portrait, and choosing the black and white was an interesting way to do it. Notice in this picture that you see the iPad being propped up against a tree as you're taking your action shot. So that's a good technique for how to steady your iPad to make it nice and stable. So neutral backgrounds. This is a fun thing. If it's a rainy day, you can sort of look outside through a window and try to capture your reflection in the window. It's a nice, cool, interesting effect. Here's an action shot with a cool, vivid color filter. Again, some cool filters. Look at all those neat filters that people are applying. You can experiment with them. When you just click Edit on the left side of the iPad, you'll see a lot of the different filters. So let's jump to the camera and just take a look at how they're creating these type of images. So the first thing that you want to do is, if you notice that little yellow circle right there, that's live photos. If it's yellow like that, just get a slash through it, so live photos is off. Then the next button down right there, that second button, this is where you put the timer, and that's how you're going to be able to take a photo of yourself and jump and things like that. So let me choose the 3-second option. Now when I press the shutter button, what's going to happen is it's going to give me a 3, 2, 1 countdown, and I'll do some sort of action. So here we go. So 3, 2, 1. All right, that was the most lame action shot, but it'll give you the of course that looks awesome. In the upper right it says the word select. I'll tap the word select and I can sort of wow, these are interesting. Let's say for some reason I liked that picture, I could put a check in the lower right on there's a blue check mark now. I can say done, and I can say to keep only my favorite or keep all of the pictures. But what it does is when you do that timer, it takes 10 photos in a row, like a burst of photographs, and then you can select your very favorite one. So let me go back to the main camera. So it's really fun. You can just remember to do your timer and keep live photos turned off, and you can take your photos. Have a great time taking your action shots and your photos. Just prop up your camera, whatever camera you're using, and experiment with it. Have fun. Try to capture the highlight in the eyes, use a neutral background, and just have some fun. See you next time.